Some stories never make it past the courthouse doors. They fade from official records, whispered only by the few who swore never to speak of them again. But in the autumn of 1877, in a small valley town in West Virginia, a story was found too grotesque, too heavy with guilt, to be erased completely. They called it the Byrd Affair. Excerpt: The Charleston Daily Gazette, November 2, 1877. Sheriff Milton Harrow and 3 deputies entered the Byrd residence on the evening of October 29th, following reports of a foul odor and repeated cries heard by travelers along the old trading route. Inside the cellar, they discovered the patriarch, Abel Byrd, aged 63, in a state of severe disrepair, bound by chains to the central beam. Present in the home were his 3 daughters, Eleanor, 28, Ruth, 26, and June, 22, who appeared malnourished and incoherent. The sheriff described the scene as beyond the realm of reason, or God's mercy. Private Journal of Reverend Alton Green, November 4, 1877. The Byrd sisters spoke little when I came to offer prayer. The eldest, Eleanor, asked whether the soul of a wicked man can rot before the flesh does. When I told her that God alone decides such matters, she smiled in a way that made me feel the air turn cold. The Byrd farmhouse sat 5 miles east of Mill Creek, half sunken into the ground like it was trying to bury itself. Locals said the house was cursed, not because of ghosts, but because of the people who never left it. Abel Byrd had once been a well-respected coal broker, known for his fierce discipline and his private religion, which many said bordered on obsession. His wife, Margaret, died in childbirth in 1856, leaving him with 3 infant daughters. From that year on, the Byrd family withdrew from the town completely. The windows of the farmhouse were boarded by 1860. By 1865, no one had seen the girls at all. But every few weeks a wagon came down the road, leaving sacks of grain and animal feed by the gate, payment always left in a tin box beside the fence. From the Mill Creek Ledger, October 31, 1877. A smell of death hangs in the valley. The Byrd homestead has become a place of pilgrimage for the curious. Sheriff Harrow refuses to allow entry to the basement for fear of public disturbance, though whispers among his men speak of sights that have driven 2 of them to sickness. No one knows what truly happened inside the Byrd home during those long years of silence. But fragments of letters and journals, found decades later by a county historian, reveal pieces of a story too horrifying in its mundanity to be ignored. Eleanor Byrd's writing was discovered beneath a floorboard in the south room. It was dated August 2, 1877, barely 2 months before the discovery. Excerpt: Journal of Eleanor Byrd. Father's voice does not quiet even when he sleeps. He speaks from the dark, accusing, demanding, reciting his own commandments. I do not think he prays anymore. He confesses things that God should never have heard. Ruth says his mind has gone. June says it was gone long before Mother died. That journal, brittle and water-stained, was the key that changed how investigators understood the Byrd affair. The sisters weren't merely caretakers of a dying old man. They were prisoners of his will, trapped in a house built from madness. Locals remembered Abel Byrd as a stern figure who quoted scripture in a way that twisted the words into curses. He believed in punishment, divine, personal, and hereditary. When the Civil War came and went, the valley changed, but the Byrd house stayed the same, a wooden crypt on a hill that seemed untouched by time or mercy. In 1877, heavy rains washed away part of the lower property, revealing what looked like a sealed coal shaft beneath the house. That's when travelers started hearing cries at night. Soft at first, like wind through hollow wood. Then louder, then human. A postman named Thomas Ewell was the first to report it. Statement of Thomas Ewell, County Records, 1877. I heard it around sundown, a man's voice, weak but desperate, calling out, "For the love of Christ, end it." I thought maybe a miner had fallen through a shaft. When I called out, I heard a woman answer from the porch. She said, "There are no men here, sir." Then she closed the door. That report reached Sheriff Harrow 2 days later. By the time he arrived with his men, the sound had stopped. But the smell had not. When they forced their way into the cellar, they found Abel Byrd chained to a post, barely alive, whispering fragments of prayer that no one could understand. He died before dawn. The sisters never spoke in court. They refused to explain why their father had been locked away, or for how long. Only Eleanor's final line in her journal gave a clue. Some men build their own hells. We only kept the door shut. Segment 2. The Haunting Legacy of the Byrd Sisters, 1877 to 1881. Excerpt: The Mill Creek Ledger, November 6, 1877. It is with no small measure of alarm that the townsfolk of Mill Creek continue to speak of the Byrd family tragedy. Travelers avoid the valley road. Farmers swear their milk spoils overnight. Children say they can see 3 shapes in the upper windows of the Byrd house, though the building has been empty since the sisters were taken away. Sheriff Harrow has ordered the property boarded and placed under guard until further notice. The townspeople expected the story to fade after the burial, but the Byrd farmhouse didn't stay quiet. Every few nights, those who lived near Mill Creek swore they saw a flickering lantern moving through the fields, though the house had been sealed by law. When locals went to investigate, they found the cellar door open again, the chains gone. The following spring, the sheriff reported strange disturbances, tools missing, livestock mutilated, crops rotting in patches near the Byrd property. No one could explain it, but everyone blamed the sisters. Letter from Reverend Alton Green to the County Commissioner, May 3, 1878. It is not superstition but observation, sir. The sickness that afflicted those girls was not of the flesh alone. I visited them at the asylum in Richmond. They sit in silence, faces turned toward the same corner, mouths moving without sound. When I asked what they saw, the eldest replied, "He still prays, Reverend. We can hear him through the walls." The asylum's doctor, a young physician named Dr. William Harlow, kept meticulous notes on the sisters. He described their condition as familial hysteria, complicated by religious mania. But his journals, discovered years later, tell a darker story. Dr. Harlow's medical notes, 1878 to 1879. The sisters refuse to speak of their father directly, but all exhibit a shared delusion that his voice persists beneath their beds, reciting psalms in a language unknown. They grow pale when the bells toll for evening prayer. Eleanor claims the floorboards in their cell tremble during the Lord's Prayer. I have moved them twice. The effect follows. In late 1878, Dr. Harlow requested that the sisters be separated, hoping distance might break the shared hallucination. It didn't. Within a month, each had fallen silent entirely, communicating only by scratching symbols into the walls, circles, crosses, and strange geometric patterns that no one could decipher. 2 nurses resigned after reporting whispering from the walls at night. One claimed she heard a man's voice reciting scripture backward. Excerpt, The Richmond Gazette, October 1879. Unexplained disturbances continue at the Mill Creek Asylum. Patients speak of hymns sung in reverse, of unseen hands that knock upon the floorboards in rhythm with the storm. Dr. Harlow has requested clergy assistance, citing spiritual unrest in the female ward. Meanwhile, back in Mill Creek, the boarded Byrd farmhouse stood untouched. Rain carved black streaks down the siding. The roof sagged. But sometimes, at night, a faint light could still be seen moving from room to room. Locals said the sisters' souls had returned home. But others whispered that it was Abel Byrd himself, searching for the daughters who had locked him away. Personal diary, Martha Pruitt, neighbor, January 1880. The snow was thick last night, but I saw them clear as day. 3 women standing at the gate of the Byrd place. Their dresses were plain, white as linen. When I called out, they turned together same time, like birds startled by gunfire. There was no face among them I could name, and no footprints left behind. By 1881, the asylum caught fire during a thunderstorm. All records of the Byrd sisters ended there. Their bodies were never identified among the remains. But 2 weeks later, a traveler passing through Mill Creek claimed to have seen 3 women walking the roadside, barefooted and covered in ash. When he stopped his wagon to offer help, they asked him for directions to the Byrd homestead. He told them it had burned years ago. The eldest smiled and said, "Then where will father sleep?" County Report, 1881. The Byrd property has been condemned. No structure stands upon it now, yet travelers continue to report cries from the earth during storms. The valley soil refuses seed. Locals call it Byrd's Hollow. None dwell there, and none will. Some houses die with their owners. Others remember every word ever spoken inside them. And sometimes, when the world forgets, the walls begin to whisper the truth back into the wind. This was the story of the Byrd sisters, and the father whose prayers never stopped echoing through the cellar.